Good day, Miss. My name is Josiah Williams. This is our chapter presentation, the video version of that chapter presentation. And our chapter is building positive feelings, right? My group members are Dana Marshall, Derek Kwame, Jabari Phillip, and Kishan Ramuta, right? So for the first introductory slide, right, we're going to talk about what this chapter focuses on, right? So this chapter focuses on the development of students' feelings towards physical activity, right? Feelings of joy, feelings about others, and feelings of self-accomplishment, right? So as physical education teachers, it's our mission not just to give the children activities to do, right? We want them to remember it. We want it to be a part of them, and we want them to have fun and be happy while doing so. So there are ways and means that we can do that, right? So further down into the presentation, we'll talk about some techniques and strategies to do that, how we can select activities in order to facilitate enjoyment and self-accomplishment in these activities, how we can understand these children's feelings, and how we can organize competition for them. Also, how we can test them now later on these same activities, right?
So in this chapter, techniques and strategies, there are some headings that we will go over. First heading is provide choice. In provide choice, this topic deals with the teacher providing an environment that has variation and allows students to participate in activities that might be more comfortable to them. So what happens is some students have a little insecurities or shyness towards different activities, and this would drop their energy levels towards the activity and also their level of participation. So having a variety of activities would enable them to choose one that they would most likely or more likely be willing to do, which would increase and enhance their participation and your lesson. Interaction analysis. This topic deals with the teacher being aware of the impact that he or she has on the students, and this discrimination is something that teachers sometimes do unknowingly by highlighting and paying more attention to skilled students and less attention to quiet and shy, less skilled students. It is the duty of the teacher to be aware of this and try as best as possible to limit the interaction between students, in that they would share themselves equally among all students, paying equal and adequate attention to every student in the classroom, and making sure that students don't feel as though you pay more attention to one student than the other. Taking emotional temperatures. So in your classroom, it is very important that you understand the emotional temperature of your class. When you walk into your class, you should ask questions to gauge the temperature of the students. For example, you can ask, how are you guys today? For example, when you come out of vacation in September, the teacher would more or less ask the students how you feel, how was your vacation, we ready to start to do some work now. The topic is basketball, and you can gauge the students' level of participation, their level of interest based on simple questions that would allow you to understand the student emotional temperatures. This is very important for your participation level of the classroom, as well as how well they participate, which will enhance or not enhance your lesson. And the second to last one is recording. This is a technique used to self-evaluate your lesson as an educator. This is a method of self-critiquing using recording on yourself. So as a teacher, being a reflective practitioner is something that we need to practice, and it's something that we do every single day. We reflect on the lesson that we did. So a way of self-critiquing is you put a mic on yourself, and at the end of the day, you listen to how high or how low. If you should have been higher, you should have talked louder or softer in this particular situation. Recording is a technique that is used and mostly for the teacher, not only for the students. Mistakes okay here zone. So now in this topic, this is the last topic. This is where you provide the students with an environment where they feel as though it's okay to make mistakes. A lot of times students are shy and bashful in that they don't want to make mistakes, and they would rather not do something because of the fear of people laughing at them. So you create an environment that is conducive to that. So you make sure that students know that you're not allowed to laugh at other students' mistakes, and you are encouraging and making sure that everybody is comfortable in the environment, so that ample participation and the emotional temperatures will be up and the lesson will flourish, and everybody have a good day.
Good day, my name is Kishan Ramata. Today we will be dealing with selection of activities. Students' choice makes a difference. Students' choices in PE can influence how a student responds to an activity. When a student believes that they have a choice in an activity setting, they are more likely to last longer during that activity. Undesirable feelings. By choosing an activity for students, it can mean public failure for students that are more poorly skilled. Bad practices when selecting groups. Captain choosing teams. When two captains chooses teams among the class, this can result in a very painful experience for students that are chosen last. Elimination games. Games that involve elimination are not recommended for students now starting sport or physical activity. This is because when they are now starting, it is important to get as much practice or playtime within that sport in order to grasp it properly. Relays. Relays promote feelings of inferiority among students that are poorly skilled or overweight. This is because they usually end up last and finish last. They are blamed for the loss and often ridiculed, even if other students among the team are also responsible for the loss. Good practices when selecting groups. Relays and elimination are unnecessary. The best scenario is when a class is split into two. However, there may be times where it would be more beneficial for the class to be split into smaller groups. Splitting the class in two. There are two ways: using partners, using birthdays. Using partners. Tell students to find a partner, then tell them to create two separate lines facing their partner. One line would be one team, the other line the other team. Using birthdays. Tell students whose birthdays are within the first 6 months to line up, and whose birthdays are within the last 6 months to line up. One line would be one team, one line would be the other. You can always adjust to make teams even. Splitting the class into smaller groups, using the count-off method. You must first recognize how much groups you want. Then have the students line up in one line. And for example, if you want 4 groups, you count them off in 4. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. You then tell all the 1s to create one group, 2s to create another group, 3s to create another group, and the 4s to create the last group.
Competition for children, right? So during a physical education class, competitive games will be held, right? That's the nature of physical education. Where there's sport, there will be competition. Where there's fun activities, there will be competition, right? But it puts pressure on the children, and especially the poorly skilled children, in a said activity, right? So normally they will find some children in your class that are competitive, and when they get the sport they like, right, they may tend to win more games than the students who are not as skilled as them, and they may cause the poorly skilled students now to either hate the game or not participate fully, right? So this is a situation, if not handled properly, competition can damage a child's self-concept, right? And the self-concept, as we know, is how a child views himself based on his experiences and based on other people's perception of him, right? So alternatives to prevent this include allowing children to pick the game, alternative scoring systems, and child design games, right? Allowing the children to pick the game is self-explanatory. Normally, when it is, unless you already have a activity plan in your class, and you can give the students the option to pick the game. And as we all know, in all classes, there are going to be some students who will shout the loudest, requesting an activity. We don't just go with what we hear the loudest. We want to get a general idea from all the classroom, from the entire classroom, right? Now we will go on to the alternative scoring systems. So we're talking about developing a scoring system that awards good qualities like sportsmanship and cooperation, right? So when you are making these scoring methods, you want to emphasize good traits that they want to do in the activities. Sportsmanship, helping a player up after they fall, right? cooperation, working towards one another to achieve the point, right? These are the kind of things you want to reward the children doing in the activity, right? Keep it simple so that the students are not confused. You don't want to go too in depth into it. Just simple scoring methods you can create in order to facilitate this. You say, all right, class, I will award a point if a student helps a player up after he falls down, depending on the activity you're playing, right? So all these kind of things can emphasize good qualities in the children, right? However, these scoring methods must be discussed beforehand rather than being impromptu, right? You don't want it to be on the spot last minute, right? For example, a situation may arise where a student help another student off the floor and you gave a point for that, but you did not tell the class what happened. That was going to be the scoring system, right? Some students may see that as unfair, right? Because they didn't know. The student that got the point may feel as though you're pitying them, and some children react negatively to that type of feeling. So we want to discuss this beforehand so everybody's on the same page, and when it happens, there's no confusion amongst them. Alright? So now we're going on to child design activities. So students love when they create and name games. That is every classroom, right? If students, depending on the sport, create an activity, a fun kind of makeshift game for that sport, they will remember that sport. They talk about that sport in school, they talk about it home, right? They make it their own, right? They become more invested and interested in the sport. So allowing them to create their games now creates more interest in the sport that you're doing. For instance, right? The student could be playing football, you make up a fun game for football, give it a random, let the students make a random name for it, and now the students now in their spare time play that game, right? And build the skills necessary for the actual game of football, right? And they build interest in that aspect, right? Students must be given a background in order to create the different games. So this is just one of the things, one of the requirements that you need to know before you just allow students to make games. Students can't, remember these students, secondary school, right? They may have busy lives, and they may not have all the knowledge necessary. So you want to create, how to put it, you want to create, let's say, standards for them, right? So you're not going to just tell them, all right, create a game, create a fun game for football. You could say something like, all right, students, I'm giving you 2 footballs, I'm giving you 3 cones and 2 circles. Try to create a fun game from that, and now the students now have a frame to work with. All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, everyone, whatever time you're watching this video. Right, so continuing on from the last person who presented, another way in which us as PE teachers can cause a student to feel inferior or lesser than others in the way that we test the students. For example, okay, I just want to say this one time, unlike other subjects, physical education, when you fail in the open. It's not like if you fail a maths exam in math class, you can hide your paper. But if you make a mistake in the open in physical education, everybody's seeing your mistake, everybody can laugh at you, everybody can make fun of you. And we as teachers need to be sensitive to that fact. So we need to know how to prevent students from getting into these uncomfortable situations, because this can act as a demotivator for students as they carry. First of all, it is important that we know how to share results. You won't plaster everybody's score or everybody's time that they ran on a Bristol board and put it up in the classroom, because then you'll be making all the students what you're trying to prevent, right? So instead, what you could do is tell them their scores individually, call them up, tell them the scores individually, and allow them to discuss their scores with each other. Another way that we can cause them to feel a little better about themselves is not compare themselves with other students. Even though children already compare themselves to other students, you give them a score, if one get 10, one get 8, they're going to talk about it, right? So what you can do is allow them to compare this week's score with last week's score. This way they can see a steady improvement. And us as teachers, we also have to be mindful of the fact that in a child that is low in skill, you will quicker see development in them than a child who is high in a particular skill. So as teachers, we should really pay attention to that fact and really be proud of a child, seeing progress in a child. Look for the ones who are low in skill to start off and watch them progress as time goes on. The next thing that was in the chapter was about about setting your own goals. So this can act as another motivation booster for students, right? For setting their own goals. When setting goals, we must make sure that goals are attainable and realistic. You don't want to set unrealistic goals because that will be counter react what you want to do. So instead of allowing students to feel motivated, they will now feel demotivated because they can't reach those goals. Another thing we should understand is that over time, goals should get harder and harder over time. They shouldn't remain on one level. As you complete one, the next goal should be harder. We need to teach students that goals are for you, for the person, not for your mom, not for your neighbor, not for your friends to see. The goals are for you to see your improvement as time goes on. And that's it, I'll pass you on to the next presenter.
In order to build positive feelings and to construct effective competitions for our students, it is important as good professional teachers that we understand the feelings of our students. We want to ensure that their way of thinking towards themselves are positive and healthy. And the reason why I say this is because a lot of young children have problems separating self-worth from athletic prowess or athletic performance. And for example, a student may not be performing at a skill well. They may say, "Sir is yelling at me, I'm not getting it correct. That must mean I'm not a good person." When the fact of the matter is, we know that that is not true, because we may observe that there are children who are excelling at athletic performance, but they have problems in respecting authority. They have disciplinary problems. They have problems following instructions. So as teachers, we need to come in to ensure and make students know that, hey, you may not be getting the skill now perfectly, but along the way I am here to help you to ensure that you improve. And hence, we need to understand these children's feelings before we could dive into all of that. So, two methods that we can use that can draw out these feelings from these students are student logs and discussion circles. Student logs. Research has shown that when teachers ask students to express themselves via writing, this can help the teacher form a bond with the students when the teacher actually reads how the students express themselves. So, all you need for student logs are a durable books, because we would want that this book lasts the term. We want a pencil, and that is basically it. Now, what strategies can we use to make these student logs very effective and meaningful? Well, we could use effective questioning. So that would be like asking the students to write, "How do you feel about PE?" Another example is starting statements. So we may start the statement by saying, I was not prepared for physical education class because," and this open-ended question leaves the students, or give the students, a chance to really be open and be honest about what went wrong, if anything were to go wrong on that day. So using these strategies, we can really try to get into the student's head, try to draw out those emotions, because at the end of the day, our goal is to assist the students. We want to find methods and ways that we could develop or enhance their learning abilities. Discussion circles. This is where the teacher gets an opportunity to get raw, uncut feedback from their students. By the teacher and student being physically there, the teacher can now observe the gestures, the facial expressions from the students, and really take note of how the student or how the students really feel. Questions for discussion circles are to be specific. So we don't want to ask too much of irrelevant question or ask any irrelevant questions at all, because this will just stray the students from the actual activity at hand. So we may ask specific questions such as, we have been doing the forehand stroke in tennis. Have you been practicing this skill outside of school? Now, depending on the student's response, we as teachers can find a way to assist that student by any means possible. So we may have to keep back that student a little extra in our classes, or find time after school to really assist the students. Now, before questioning our students, it's important that we make them feel comfortable. We don't want to bombard our students with questions to make them feel overwhelmed. We want our students to feel comfortable, not investigated. So, idealistically, we would give every student that we teach student love, or incorporate them in the activity. But that is impossible, seeing that at times there are situations where teachers have more than 5 classes, more than 2 classes. So the realistic thing to do would be to just do it with 2 classes maybe, so that you could be able to get that more potent feedback, and you are now able to adjust your teaching styles, teaching approaches, and the way in which you satisfy those learning needs. Now, the difference between discussion circles and student logs, well, student logs are more individual, where the student can reflect and really think about how he feels individually, whereas discussion circles provide a more friendly environment, in that sense that the students will be able to compare and share, and by voicing their opinions or how they feel, they can assist other students as well in better things.
Good day, miss. This will be basically the chapter breakdown of what the students, of what we did in our group. So if you can look here, right, this is the WhatsApp group that we created. How we did this presentation, we split it up in terms of groupings. So as you can see here, introduction, techniques and strategies, selection of activities, competition for children, and testing and understanding feelings, right? So with these groupings now, we divided it amongst our group members. As you will see in the videos of this presentation, I did the introduction and the competition for children. Techniques and strategies was handled by Jabari Philip. Selection of activities was handled by Kisha and Ramuta. Testing handled by Derek Kwame, and understanding feelings was handled by Adana Marshall. Alright? In terms of creating the PowerPoint now and the videos, as you would have seen, each member did their own video, right? We gave it to Derek Kwame so that he can combine all these videos into one video and send it up to you. In terms of the PowerPoint, I was responsible for creating the PowerPoint, and afterwards Adana Marshall was given the PowerPoint to put in the voice notes previously from the last presentation we did that we handed it to. And that's basically the chapter break.